Okay, you're good to go.
All right. Good afternoon and welcome. On behalf of the Seattle Planning Commission, we'd like to actively recognize that we are on Indigenous land, the traditional and current territories of the Coast Salish people who have lived on and stewarded these lands since the beginning of time and who continue to do so today. We acknowledge the role that traditional Western-centric planning practices have played in harming, displacing, and attempting to erase Native communities. We commit to identifying racist practices and strive to center restorative land stewardship rather than unsustainable and extractive use of the land. So again, welcome. All meetings of the Seattle Planning Commission are open to the public, but please note that the Planning Commission does not hold public hearings because we are an advisory body. We provide recommendations to elected leaders who in turn make the actual decisions. And we encourage individuals and organizations to provide their comments to the appropriate elected officials. This is a hybrid meeting. Some people are participating remotely and others are attending in person in the boards and commissions room at City Hall. I would like now to ask someone, how about Rick, to present one of these color brave space norms, and if you have a thought about how they might relate to what's on our agenda today, it'd be great if you would offer that. And I'm sorry that I didn't identify someone in advance.
That's okay. I'm going to go with look for learning and commit to learning in public. Avoid playing the devil's advocate that upholds white dominant power structures. I think given that today a sizable portion of today is focused on our comment letter related to the Seattle Transportation Plan, I think this is we are collectively learning in public and need to keep the issue of white dominant power structures in mind as we continue forward with our assessment of the plan.
Thank you, Rick. Very well said. If there aren't any amendments or modifications to these norms, then I suggest that we agree to them for today's meeting. Hearing none. On the agenda today, we have 3 items. The first 2 are related to the draft Seattle Transportation Plan. The Planning Commission staff will walk through our letters on the draft plan and the draft environmental impact statement. Our intent today is to approve these 2 letters in order to meet the comment deadlines. Our third agenda item is a refresher on the comprehensive plan and our role in the review of the upcoming soon-to-be-released draft. At this time, I believe we have a quorum. Is that correct?
We do.
Then we will approve the minutes or vote on the minutes from September 28th, 2023. I would ask for a motion and a second to approve the minutes.
So moved. Michaela.
Michaela so moves.
Second, Andy.
Second from Andy. Thank you both. Does anyone have any changes or amendments to offer? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote. All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Rick abstains.
All right. So the next Land Use and Transportation Committee meeting is scheduled for next Thursday, October 19th. That is all, as with all these meetings, it's a morning meeting, 7:30 to 9 a.m. It will be held online using the Teams platform. And our next full commission meeting is scheduled for Thursday, October 26th. Also a morning meeting, 7:30 to 9 a.m. It will be held, as this one is, both in person and via MS Teams. Vanessa?
Thanks, David. As David mentioned, we do have commissioners here in the room, boards and commissions room of City Hall, as well as commissioners on the call. As such, we will be using the chat function of MS Teams for commissioners to be recognized to speak by the chair. I would ask commissioners to abstain from putting anything substantive in the chat because members of the public listening in do not have access to that. I am going to read a public comment that was emailed to me prior to the meeting that I also sent along to you all. That we do not have any members of the public present at this meeting to offer public comment. We will be taking public comment at the end should we be joined by anybody here in City Hall. But before we get to that public comment, I'm going to ask David to start the introductions. After introducing yourself, please call on a fellow commissioner to introduce themselves.
Will do. I'm David Goldberg. I'm the co-chair of the Seattle Planning Commission, and I use he, him pronouns, live in the Wallingford Urban Village, and I work for the State Department of Transportation, and I would like to pass it to my co-chair, Michaela.
Good afternoon, Michaela Daffer and she, her pronouns. I work in affordable housing policy and planning, and I live in Capitol Hill. And I will pass it to Caleb. You are on mute, Caleb.
Maybe we can pass it to someone else until Caleb gets back in.
I can volunteer. This is Julio.
Thanks, Julio.
Hello, my name is Julio Sanchez. My pronouns are he, him. I am a resident of Capitol Hill. And I'm going to let somebody else grab the chance.
How about Matt? Or Rick?
Greetings all, I'm Rick Moeller. I use he, him pronouns. I live just north of the Wallingford Urban Village, and I am an architect and educator. You want me to pass it, David?
Please.
How about Rose?
Hey, Rose Lucia Whitson, pronouns they, them. I live up north in Licton Springs, and I work for Jacobs Engineering as a wetland biologist and permitting specialist. Matt's video, by the way, looks frozen on the screen, which may be why he didn't respond. So perhaps Nick.
Hello, Nick Whipple. I live in West Seattle and North Del Ridge. I use he, him pronouns, and for my day job, I am a city planner. How about Zio?
Hi, Zio Alvarez, she, they pronouns. I live in White Center Highland Park, and I'm a designer at Element Architects. Andrew?
Andy Dannenberg, he, him pronouns, live in Northeast Seattle. I teach at University of Washington in both public health and urban planning. I do not know who has that one yet.
Let's try Caleb one more time.
Is it still not working?
No, you're working. It's working.
Perfect. Awesome. Caleb Toolday, he, him pronouns. I live in the Central District and I work at Rainer Scholars doing leadership development work.
Let's try Matt one more time.
Hey, I'm back. Sorry, my internet died there. I'm Matt Hutchins. I live in West Seattle, he, him pronouns, and I'm an architect.
Let's move on to staff. Robin?
Robin McGonigal, I use she, her, they, them pronouns. I live on Vashon Island and I'm staff to the commission.
Olivia?
Hi, everyone. Olivia Baker. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm also staff to the commission.
Hi, all. I'm John Hoy, staff to the Planning Commission. I use he, him pronouns. Vanessa.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Vanessa Murdoch. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm staff to the commission. With that, I'll turn it back to David.
Okay, at this time, we will hear public comment. The commission provides time for public comment at all meetings, but this is a reminder that we don't hold public hearings and we are an advisory body. We make recommendations to the elected leaders who make the actual decisions. Individuals who make comments to the commission should remember that the mayor and city council are the ones that make the decisions. We encourage individuals and organizations to provide their comments appropriately to elected officials. I believe we do have a comment this time.
We do. I will go ahead and read it. Dear Planning Commission, higher density along frequent transit routes will result in scores of housing units near existing services, schools, parks, jobs, etc. Our metro bus routes are the key to achieving the equitable Seattle we need and deserve. Accordingly, we believe data-driven tactics along these lines will achieve just that. Arterial streets that have frequent bus service would be zoned to allow apartment buildings outright. The more hourly trips, the higher the density and height. Using the Department of Transportation frequent transit network data would really help with this. All corner lots citywide would be zoned to allow modest-sized apartment buildings. Using these two methods, you will achieve both high density, 5 to 7 story apartments, transit-oriented development, as well as make inroads into the single-family zones within scale 2 to 4 story apartments that blend in. We hope you give these suggestions your consideration and keep up this important work that will shape our city for decades to come. Regards, Brent Silver of the Seattle Urbanism Alliance.
Great.
That concludes the public comment.
Thank you, Brent, for those thoughtful comments, and thanks, Vanessa, for reading them. Okay, so now we'll just move on to our next agenda item, or our first agenda item. Before turning it over to staff to walk through the proposed draft comment letter on the Seattle Transportation Plan, I'd like to invite fellow commissioners to disclose any work they are or have been involved in on the Seattle Transportation Plan.
David, if I can jump in on behalf of Radhika Nair, who is planning on joining us and may or may not be part of the conversation. Radhika leads the environmental review for the Seattle Transportation Plan as part of her work with Burke Consulting. And she also works closely with the comprehensive plan consultant team on their environmental review processes as well. She is not yet with us. I will indicate if and when she does join us.
Great, thanks for that disclosure. And following the presentation, I will ask for a motion to approve each letter and a second. Following the motion and second, we will entertain any proposed amendments to the letters. Please note, proposed amendments need to be stated as specific text so that we can consider them today. Please use the chat function to be recognized to speak. Staff will assist in monitoring the queue and ensuring that all commissioners have the opportunity to participate in the discussion. We have 20 minutes to approve both letters. I will first turn it over to staff Olivia Baker to guide the discussion and approval of our comment letter on the draft EIS. And after that, I'll turn it over to John Hoy to guide the discussion and approval of our comment letter on the STP. So, Olivia.
Yeah, thank you, David. So I don't have slides prepared to walk through because there haven't been any changes to the letter since it was last presented at the Land Use and Transportation Committee meeting. The Housing and Neighborhoods Committee meeting. I'm getting lost in my dates here. And so after that meeting, once the changes were incorporated, there haven't been further edits. So the draft that was sent out to everyone last Friday is the most recent, and it's also in your inboxes. I believe John just sent it this afternoon right before the meeting. So I think the best action would be to give everyone 5 minutes to go ahead and browse through what is currently the final draft of that letter. Take a look at it, and then we'll move on to the motion to approve. So let's see, it's 3:20. So let's go until 3:25 and go ahead and review, do a 5-minute review. Sorry, John, did you want to walk through that timeline, or we can do that before the STP?
I can do it.
Okay. So we'll do the 5-minute review now. So let me know if you have any trouble accessing the document. Otherwise, take some time to look it over. Okay, that was about 5 minutes. So hopefully if you hadn't had the chance to read it previously, you had the chance to get a sense of what was different about the last time you looked at it today. I should note for anyone listening in online from the public that both of the letters we'll be talking about today are posted to our website on our meetings page. So you can follow along with what commissioners are looking at and discussing. And I guess with that, I'll pass it back to David to lead us through any motion to approve and discussion. If folks have specific points you'd like to talk about, I can pull up the letter itself on the screen.
Okay, let's put this item on the table with a motion and a second, and then we'll talk about any potential amendments. Can I get a motion?
I move to open a discussion. Am I moving to approve the letter, or am I just moving?
I think
to
you would move
start?
to approve it, and then we'll
Okay.
work on the amendments.
I move to approve the letter on the DEIS.
Rick seconds the motion.
Okay, all right then. Do we have any proposed amendments? Put your name in the chat if you have one. And I have one. I can start there if no one's got one quite yet. There was on page 3, the last paragraph. It is in the section on land use recommendations, and it's the third bullet. First line in that, it says, the commission is concerned by the potential alignment between the corridor's vision of growth in the forthcoming draft comprehensive plan and the high traffic volume plan for arterials in the SDP. And that language chipped me up a little bit because I don't think it's alignment that we're concerned about, but maybe it's potential conflicts between those two things.
Sorry, David, could you just repeat where that was? I want to show it on the screen.
It's the bottom of page 3, that last paragraph, the commission is concerned. Unless I'm misreading this, I don't think it's the alignment we're concerned about, but the possibility that they might not align, or that there might be some conflicts or some issues to be resolved.
Is that a word that would work better for you, David? Misalignment?
Or perhaps confluence, like the commission is concerned with sort of a layering on.
Let's see, I remember this being discussed, and I think Matt, you brought it up initially. Is this representing what you wanted to say, or is there a different way to say this?
Sorry,
Compatibility?
I'm having internet problems.
David, would you want compatibility or incompatibility between the two?
If that's what we're trying to convey, and I remember that the discussion was we have this new or this proposed corridors idea of for the comp plan of encouraging some density, a few blocks perhaps on either side of a corridor, not necessarily right on the arterial, as has been the case over the last 25 years. But we don't see in the SDP a really good strategy for how to manage those traffic volumes and the potential conflicts with active transportation, et cetera, in those situations. So I think that's what we're trying to get at. So maybe it's misalignment. Maybe that works.
David, I think it is alignment. It's that what our vision for the corridor is from an urban design perspective versus what the SDP is talking about with regards to their vision for arterials. The fact that those two overlap and was kind of that they they're kind of at cross purposes, those two visions. But maybe alignment isn't the exact right word, but misalignment isn't.
Are we concerned by potential conflicts?
Conflicts,
between?
maybe?
Yeah, conflicts, that's
Yeah.
right.
Okay, then I would move that we strike alignment and replace it with conflicts.
Michaela seconds that.
Okay, are we, Vanessa, should we vote on these one at a time, or do we go back through at the end?
My suggestion would be that Olivia, John, and I will take note of the suggested edits, and then at the end, we will summarize them, and the motion will then be to approve the letter as amended per discussion.
Okay, so we're looking for consensus as we move through, and then we'll do it all formally at the end. Okay. Do we have any others? I don't see anybody in the.
Rick.
I had one, David.
Oh, okay.
Actually, two. Olivia, if you could scroll down to the top of page 4. Oh, that's different than the one I have, than the one I was looking at. Sorry. I'm looking for the align STP.
Align STP.
I was looking at the one that Robin sent, which is that out of date from this one?
Sorry, it's just for the difference between the PDF and the Word doc potentially.
Yeah.
Because I had to do a PDF for the website. So you say a bit more about the
align STP with the final, I think with the comp plan EIS. Sorry.
That's fine, I'll find it. Is it this here, conduct additional analysis?
I think it's probably above this.
Should be.
Sorry. Where can I find?
Open?
Yeah.
John sent us the PDFs just as the meeting was starting. So maybe if you could open one of those.
Sorry, I didn't see that. I was looking for it and didn't see it.
Hey, Rick, I'm looking at top of page 4 in the STP comment letter, and that has the language you're talking about?
I believe so, yeah.
Are you looking at the STP letter or the DEIS letter?
I was looking at the STP letter, sorry.
Okay.
Hey,
I was worried I lost a paragraph.
My mistake.
Hold that thought, because your moment is coming.
Okay, sorry.
Anybody else got anything on the DEIS? I'm not seeing anything in the chat. Anybody in the room?
Nope.
Okay. Then I guess we're ready to vote on the amendments, I guess, the one amendment so far.
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. Well, do we need a motion on the amendments, or can we just go straight to a vote?
I think you can go straight to all in favor of the letter as amended. And if anybody needs me to repeat that amendment, I can.
Okay, that would be a vote. Ultimately, to just go straight to approval, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All in favor of voting to approve the letter as amended, say aye.
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 Chair votes aye. And any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. Great work. Thank you, Olivia, for getting us through that and digesting all of our comments and putting them in a salient letter. Much appreciated.
Yes, thank you all for your input.
All right, so we will move on to the STP final draft, STP comment letter.
You want to start here, John?
Sure. David, are you ready for me to take it away?
I am.
Okay, you threw us off a little bit because Olivia and I were under the impression I would go first, so, but we're adaptable.
Sorry, that's not how it was in the notes.
That's how I wrote it.
Slide.
So.
I'm just gonna get the microphone. So I just prepared this really short one slide because I just wanted to acknowledge the amount of work that went into these two letters in a very short amount of time. You'll see how many separate meetings went into the review and drafting of these two separate letters starting only a month ago at the full commission meeting back in the first full commission meeting in September. So thanks to everyone that attended the full commission meeting, the executive committee meeting, the LUT and Housing and Neighborhoods Committee meetings to provide your input and to review and propose edits to these letters. So here we are, October 12th, to approve both the final STP and the DEIS comment letters, just in time, as you will see, for the comment deadlines. The DEIS comment deadline is on Monday, the 16th, and then the final STP comment deadline is a week following the following Monday. So pending approval of the STP comment letter, congratulations for all your hard work. Thank you again from staff to all of the commissioners who worked on this. I don't have any additional slides on the STP comment letter. It went out on Friday. It did incorporate all of the changes that were recommended and discussed at the Housing and Neighborhoods Committee meeting. It is also, as Olivia mentioned, it's on our website, the final draft letter, and I did send it out just before the discussion today. So we are going to take 5 minutes again to give commissioners a chance to review the letter, and then we'll come back and entertain any final suggested edits, and then hopefully take action on final approval. So let's come back. I have 3:38, so let's come back at 3:43.
Great. Thanks, John.
Okay, everybody, that was 5 minutes. David, can I just, before you ask for a motion, can I just point out one thing?
Certainly.
So I've shared my screen with the letter, the final letter, and I've already made the same change that was recommended on the DEIS letter to replace the word alignment between the corridors alternative and the use of arterials in the STP. So it's replaced with conflicts, both in the bulleted heading as well as the first sentence of the text towards the bottom of page 4. So I've already done that for consistency, so we don't need to talk about that. But other than that, we're probably ready for a motion.
Okay, thanks, John. Yeah, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the comment letter on the Seattle Transportation Plan, and a second, please.
Rose moves.
Matt will second.
Rose and Matt, thank you very much. All right. Put your name in the chat if you've got an amendment. I think we know that Rick had one, unless we've addressed it. So Rick, let me go to you.
Sure, it's above, it's at the top of this page, John.
Okay. Just a second. I'm just capturing the motion. Just a second.
Got it.
Okay, top of the page, right here, Rick.
Yep.
Align. Okay.
Correct. I on the one hand, I appreciate that we're trying to acknowledge the misfortune of the release of the plans not being allowed, but I would be more comfortable if the first sentence simply stated the STP should be aligned with the final growth strategy selected for the comprehensive plan. I don't think this is really a question of it being ideal. It's necessary. And then on the second sentence, sorry, not the second sentence. Oh, sorry, the next bullet. And let me correct me if I'm misunderstanding the intent of this statement. Oh, never mind. I lost it. It's a different spot. I'll find it. Move on to another comment, and I'll come back.
Does anyone else have a suggested amendment?
Michaela does.
Mine is more of a question.
Oh, okay. Let's entertain your question, Julio, and then we'll proceed with amendments.
Okay, so in the part that advises them to study the impact of air quality near in the communities that are near the main roads of transportation, we don't mention the fact that, for example, the Clean Air Agency already has a body of study in that area. Is there a way to maybe like suggest that they don't, as well as they do their own research, they also draw from the research that has already been made by local organizations?
Julio, are you mentioned a statement about studying air quality, is that correct?
Yes.
So that might be in the DEIS letter. I know this has created a lot of confusion with two separate letters effectively on the same subject, but this letter I don't think has anything about studying air quality.
Well, let's see. I think I'm on the STP DEIS, and towards the end, after climate change, Air quality recommendations. Study impact to users when active travel modes, community and mobility hubs. That's page 6. Am I in the wrong spot? The wrong letter?
That's the letter that we just approved.
Okay, got it. Thank you for the clarification.
Michaela, do you have a comment?
I do. If you could scroll up to page 2, under the bullet that says draft STP appears to be. There we go. Mine's just minor. I don't like the repetition of the word integrated twice in the sentence that starts with while this plan was intended.
Okay.
So I was thinking we could say while this plan was intended to create a unified vision as a way to not repeat ourselves. That's it.
Just eliminate the N on N.
Yeah.
It's
Well, create
the way we usually say it.
A unified, yeah.
And unified. I think typically it wouldn't have the N, but I won't die on that hill.
Oh, it's on the screen. It's correct.
Do we have any other suggested amendments?
I believe Rick figured out his second suggestion.
Yeah, I have one and it's super minor and it might not be consistent with the intent of the second sentence, but I am proposing that the second sentence read, the STP implementation plan will, at minimum, need to align with the anticipated travel demand generated by the selected growth strategy and associated land use patterns.
So that's the second sentence on page 4 and the first bullet. That's the second sentence.
Yeah, first bullet, page 4, second sentence. I believe that's part of the intention there, and then the rest of it goes on to say the importance of engaging in the implementation strategy co-creation process.
So Rick, now that I'm there, can you repeat your suggested edit?
Yeah, that the second sentence read, the STP implementation plan will, comma, at minimum, comma, need to align with the anticipated travel demand generated by the selected growth strategy and associated land use patterns.
Got it.
Okay, so let's look at these two together and see if we have consensus on this amended paragraph. Anybody have a different thought about this?
David, would you like me to read the first 2 sentences as amended on page 4, first bullet?
Sure.
The STP should be aligned with the final growth strategy selected for the comprehensive plan and the resulting future land use map. The STP implementation plan, at minimum, will need to align with the anticipated travel demand generated by the selected growth strategy and associated land use patterns.
I see that you declined to split the verb, which was my initial inclination, but I decided I wouldn't say anything about it.
Which is proper?
She just moves. Well, pedants would tell you that you shouldn't split the verb, but I think most people in common speech probably would do it the way Rick did it. So
I accept Vanessa's edit of my edit.
I'm moving at minimum to after implementation plan, as now appears on the screen.
sounds good. All right, seems like everybody's basically okay with this amendment, and I don't hear any others. Last call.
Matt.
Matt?
Yeah, a hand up. On page 4, just making our 2 letters align. The header, concern about alignment between the corridors and alternative. That's at the bottom of page 4, last bullet point. Oh, got it already.
We got it already.
Thank you.
John was reading your mind. Okay, I think we're ready.
Read.
I think we're ready to vote to approve the letter, our letter on commenting on the draft Seattle Transportation Plan as amended. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Chair votes aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, we've done it. And again, incredible work on behalf of the staff and the commission to get through all these pages of these documents and put these comments together. Really, John and Olivia again, and Vanessa, thank you so much for all you've done to bring us to this point so we can submit our comments on time.
Could I reinforce that comment, David?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I was traveling when this process really got underway. Then I was sick for 2 weeks. So I actually had virtually nothing to do with this letter, and I'm really impressed with the final results. So thank you, commissioners and staff.
Yeah, the fact that we did this without Rick's help is really quite amazing.
It's shocking, is it not?
That's why it was so smooth.
All right. Let's see, Vanessa, are we ready then to go to the next item on the agenda?
We are.
Okay. So in anticipation of our upcoming review of the draft One Seattle transportation is stuck. One Seattle comprehensive plan. SPC staff will walk us through a refresher of the plan, its intent and contents. We have an hour for this agenda item, and following the presentation, commissioners will have the opportunity to ask questions, add your own perspective, and make any comments. So Vanessa, take it away.
Great. Thank you, David. I want to thank Olivia and Commissioner Radhika Nair, who both contributed to this PowerPoint. This may be a refresher for some commissioners, maybe a good refresher for some, might be old hat for others. I will quickly walk through. This is just a very high level overview of the comprehensive plan, what it does, what it doesn't. And then I would like to remind everybody that I will be speaking to the current comprehensive plan that the city is operating under right now, as opposed to the upcoming draft update that we are eagerly anticipating and still do not have a date for. Next slide, please. So a comprehensive plan describes a shared vision for the city's future, and it guides where growth will happen, both residential and employment. And it has goals and policies for a range of topics, and those goals and policies inform the day-to-day work of various city departments. Comprehensive plans are required by the state for all fast-growing cities to plan for current as well as new anticipated residents and workers. Next slide, please. So what is required in the plan? The plan must be coordinated and consistent, both internally to the city as well as externally with our regional partners as well as our state partners. City regulations must be consistent with and implement the plan. Spending on infrastructure such as libraries, parks, roads must be consistent with the plan, but is not actually called out in the plan. The plan does not make any budget commitments. The plan is a resource for communities, the private sector, as well as the public sector, as it describes the city's priorities which are developed through a hopefully robust community engagement process. The plan can be amended once a year. This body, the Seattle Planning Commission, reviews the annual amendments that are proposed by members of the public. And per the state regulations, the plan must be thoroughly updated every 8 years. And we are in the middle of that process right now. I'll also note that all city plans, policies, and requirements look to the comprehensive plan for direction and must be consistent with the plan. Similarly, capital improvement plan priorities for local infrastructure investments also must be consistent. So basically, the comprehensive plan is the holistic mother plan from which all plans and policies are developed within the city and then must be consistent rolling back up to those broader goals and policies as articulated in the plan. Next slide, please. I mentioned in the earlier slide that the plan must be consistent both internally between departments of the city as well as with our regional and state partners. On the screen, you'll see listed the state frameworks that the plan must be consistent with, as well as the regional articulated at the Puget Sound Regional Council, as well as King County. I will note that this PowerPoint presentation will be sent out to all planning commissioners. It will also be up on our website should any members of the public be listening in and scrambling to write this all down. We'll have it up on our website within the next 2 days. Next slide, please. Again, what can the plan do and what can it not do? It does not include development regulations and it does not commit resources. What it does do is outline high-level goals and policies that are developed, again, after robust engagement with communities across Seattle. Next slide, please. So the topics that are covered in the plan are referred to often as elements. They can also be referred to as chapters. So the first is the vision for how the city is going to grow, which is also referred to as the growth strategy. The state requires a number of topics. Those include land use, housing, transportation, capital facilities, utilities, economic development, parks and open space, and container port and shorelines. Additional topics that our current Seattle 2035 plan address are community involvement, environment, community well-being, and arts and culture. You'll see on the screen that environment is asterisk, or there is an asterisk after environment, and that is to note that state legislation passed earlier this year will require that Seattle, as well as other municipalities, include a climate/environment chapter or element in their comp plan. So while we do not currently have a climate chapter in our comp plan, we will in the next major update. I do just want to remind commissioners, as well as members of the public listening in, that last year the Seattle Planning Commission released 4 issue briefs to inform the update to the plan. And those are evolving the growth strategy, the need for anti-displacement strategies throughout the plan, repurposing the right-of-way, and meeting the need for affordable housing. These all may be found on the Seattle Planning Commission's website. If you click on the home page, right in the top left corner, if you follow the link to read our issue briefs, you will find our work, the work of the Planning Commission on those issue briefs, as well as previous comments on the scope of the environmental impact that we are also awaiting with the release of the comp plan. Next slide, please. So the comp plan is a 20-year plan to guide how our city grows and makes investments for a more equitable and resilient future. As I've noted a couple of times, it is hopefully shaped by broad and deep community engagement. And our next update is due in 2024. The plan that you see on the slide, Seattle 2035, is the current comprehensive plan that we are operating under and is about to be updated and then approved next year. Next slide, please. I just want to touch on a few key elements in the, or I should say, a few key goals and policies in some key elements of the current plan. These are important to remember as you all will be looking at the draft update and looking for differences and how the plan has been updated. So under land use, the first goal in that chapter or element is to achieve a development pattern consistent with the urban village strategy, concentrating most new housing and employment in urban centers and villages, while also allowing some infill development compatible with the established context in areas outside centers and villages. I'm going to speak a little bit at the end of this presentation to how that is already being reimagined. And then the second goal is to provide zoning and accompanying land use regulations that allow a variety of housing types to accommodate housing choices for households of all types and income levels. I'm not going to read the whole slide because you can all read that. Next slide, please. Some of the key components of the current transportation chapter or element of the current Seattle Comprehensive Plan is that transportation aims to align the growth strategy with transportation decisions. There's a commitment to eliminate serious injuries and fatalities on city streets. A desire to create an interconnected city with reliable, easy to use travel options. To have a transportation system that contributes to a more affordable city and to create streets and sidewalks that generate economic and social activity and add to the city's overall prosperity and happiness. Next slide, please. In terms of the housing chapter of the current comprehensive plan, in the city's vision for the future, all people have access to housing that is safe, clean, and affordable. As Seattle grows, its housing supply grows and adapts to meet the needs of all households, regardless of color or income, including families with children, seniors, and people who have a disability. I should note that that is a goal. Goals and policies in the housing element speak to the need to meet current and projected housing needs, achieving a mix of housing types and making it possible for households of all income levels to live in Seattle. Next slide, please. And then in the environment chapter of our comp plan, there's a discussion of air and water quality. There's an acknowledgement of the climate action plan that targets to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 58% from the 2008 levels by 2030 and become carbon neutral by 2050. There's also a policy, the city can make investments to restore green space. Oops. Going back to the element. There we go. City can make investments to restore green spaces and creeks and develop a 21st century transportation system that integrates old and new mode measures. Now we can go on to the growth strategy. Thank you. No worries. So by 2044, we're talking about our next horizon of 20 years, assuming that this plan will be approved, or the updated plan will be approved next year. We need to be planning for at least 112,000 housing units, 169,500 jobs. The slide notes that the existing urban village strategy focuses growth and investment within urban centers and villages. That's in the current plan. However, this new update that we are anticipating, hopefully to be released by the end of the year, will explore new ideas of our growth strategy, including new centers or villages, 15-minute neighborhoods, and more options for housing across the city. Next slide, please. So earlier this year, the Office of Planning and Community Development asked for comments on the scope of the draft environmental impact statement that will be prepared on the major update to the plan. And The scoping report noted a number of different areas and characteristics of areas of where housing will be allowed in the new plan. And this is an evolution of the current growth strategy. So rather than focus the growth solely on our urban centers and urban villages, the new plan, once we see it, will contemplate growth in different areas, including the urban centers and villages, as well as smaller scale neighborhood areas, some would say hamlets, as well as along corridors, and looking at our currently zoned neighborhood residential areas and where there may be opportunities for providing that variety of housing types, making more of Seattle accessible to more Seattleites and people moving here. These housing areas are consistent with state legislation that was passed earlier this year regarding recognizing the housing crisis that not only Seattle is facing, but jurisdictions across the state, and the need for providing more options in our cities for people to live. Next slide, please. I noted earlier that last year the Planning Commission developed 4 issue briefs to inform the major update of the comp plan. Those topics are the growth strategy, evolving that growth strategy, to actively address displacement, as well as to provide more housing options across the city. An acknowledgement that the plan across the elements needs to address displacement and put in place anti-displacement strategies that will be hopefully articulated in the goals and policies throughout the document, throughout the plan, and then built upon through accompanying implementation plans for the comp plan. Lots of planning going on. The third issue brief from the Planning Commission was repurposing the right-of-way, basically acknowledging that the right-of-way is public space and should be imagined as a public space that everybody has equitable access to and is not solely designated for the storage of private vehicles and throughput of vehicles, although those functions will remain, but not at the exclusion of other functions. And then the fourth issue brief was an acknowledgement of the affordable housing crisis that Seattle and many other jurisdictions face, and strong suggestions to address the barriers in accessing affordable housing, both rental and ownership, and leveraging existing resources to provide more options, more affordable options for more people across the city. Next slide. I think this might be the last. So that was a very quick overview of comp plan, what it does, what it doesn't do. Again, I will send this out to all commissioners. We will post it on our website. This was just a touch point because it's been a while since we've talked about the comp plan, as we've been waiting for that draft plan to be released so that we can dig into it. It is important to understand what our current plan says so that you all can be sure that the major update that we will be seeing really addresses conditions and anticipated future conditions for the city. And with that, I am going to open it up to questions. Should there be any questions? Please, thank you. Sorry.
Could you comment on kind of the impact of the comp plan on decisions? A developer comes along, wants to do something that's really not compatible, wants some expensive housing, displacing people, traffic. Can the comp plan stop that, or what's the level of influence of the comp plan on that kind of decision being made?
The development regulations that are found in our land use code must be consistent with the comprehensive plan. So should somebody come down the road and want to propose a development that is inconsistent with the comprehensive plan, they could propose a comprehensive plan amendment, Those are entertained typically by city council and the mayor on an annual basis. There are strict criteria of what annual amendments can even be studied further. And basically that criteria includes basically being consistent with the plan. So that isn't to say that some may argue that there is some development that is inconsistent with the plan, that the plan is the consistency of all development regulations with the comprehensive plan is required not only by the city, but by state law.
So it should stop somebody who's gone way off in the wrong direction.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Looks like Matt has his hand raised.
Thank you, everybody, for helping me. Matt, do you have your hand raised?
I did. I heard you say hopefully before the end of the year for the comp plan release. Do you have any update on the timing?
We do not.
Okay.
I wish I did. I'm sorry, we do not. As soon as we do, I will let you all know. Theo.
You had mentioned that there's state legislation that's updating what's required in these documents. And you mentioned that it would impact Seattle in the next cycle. I'm assuming that means not this one, but the one that will come later, or is there a requirement for what we'll read in this plan?
Great question. So the question, just because you don't have a mic over there, sorry about that. The state legislation that I referenced that came through, there were a number of different bills, House bills that came through in the spring session. Those will impact this major update. So the ones that come to mind are House Bill 1110 that speaks to density of housing. And I'm forgetting the number of the House bill that requires a climate element chapter in the comprehensive plan. And there are, pardon?
1181.
John to the rescue, 1181. And there are other pieces as well. But the short answer is this next update has to be consistent with state legislation passed this spring. Yes. Okay.
Vanessa, I heard that the legislature has allowed the fastest growing counties who are due in this cycle to not do the climate element.
I am not aware of that, and I have not heard from city staff that that is being pursued. However, the draft is not yet out, so we will find out when the draft comes out.
Yeah, I think King, Snohomish, PS, they don't have to do the climate element this time around.
That's good to know. Thank you, Radhika. And Nick Whipple mentioned in the chat House Bill 1337. Thank you for that.
Yeah, and Nick Welch with OPC was here giving a presentation and noting they need to make some changes to align with House Bill 1337, which is the ADU bill.
And for members of the public who may be listening in, some of the commissioners on the call are in Spokane at the Washington State APA convention. So thank you for doing double duty of joining the Seattle Planning Commission meeting today while also being in Spokane and hearing from colleagues across the state. I'm going to put a call out one more time for any questions. And I'm seeing none. David, I did receive 2 public comments in the course of our meeting that I'd like to read when you're ready for that.
Great. I think we're ready.
Right. So just as a reminder, the Planning Commission is eager to hear public comments. We do not our meetings are not, do not contain public hearings because The planning commission is an advisory body. They don't make the decisions. And I encourage any members of the public who are sending comments to the planning commission to also send those comments to elected officials, as those are the individuals who will be making decisions. So the first comment I received, received this afternoon. Hi, I am a Seattle resident with a small family home on a large corner lot next to the light rail. Expansion of transport has not changed my neighborhood density or zoning. I would like to transform it into housing that can support my family and neighborhood. How will the passing of HB 1110 be enacted in Seattle? I will follow up with this individual. This is not a question that the Planning Commission can answer, but I will direct this individual to the Office of Planning and Community Development, who staff there are grappling with how to true up the draft comp plan with the state legislation that passed earlier this spring. The next public comment. Hello, I'm a Seattle resident and wondering what the timeline for implementation for HB 1110 is, and are there opportunities for residents to listen, participate in the process for implementation, for example, specific committee meetings, conferences? Thank you. Once again, this is not a question that the Planning Commission can entertain, but I will respond to this individual and suggest some places within the city that they may find the answers to the questions that they're asking. And with that, I will turn it back to you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, well, I think that completes our business for today. Unless there's something else, then I think we're ready to adjourn. It'll be the earliest I think we've adjourned since I've been on the commission. That's what you can do when you digest 1,600 pages and spit out letters associated with them. Okay, well then we're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all very much.
Thanks all. Bye.
Bye.